fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork back with a new recap and review for episode 2, season 4. This is The Lion and the Rose, directed by Alex Graves. Alex Graves has directed some really, really powerful episodes, deals great with character work, and especially when we get to the royal wedding and the wedding reception at the end of this episode. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. I'm the Turtle Dork. This guy is the Disco Dork. Let's break this down. So the episode opens with Ramsay on the hunt.
She was fucked up. My recollection of Ramsay and his end in a later season, the dogs are sicked on him, and it's cool to see not even a callback to that, but a precursor to that. Because again, when you watch the show for the first time, you have no idea that these dogs are gonna play a part in his demise. Right. But it's cool to see that now, knowing how he's gonna die. But it's not cool in the context of the scene because he and I don't know the girl's name that is with him.
I know these are the two girls that were seducing Theon when he was being tortured. I want to say that's the two, because the other girl with the bow and arrow was like, she thinks she's prettier than me, blah, blah, this and that. And remember, they were like going back and forth when they were like trying to like have sex with Theon. I want to say it was those two girls.
It very well could have been. But I do remember the one in this scene. So basically in this scene, Ramsay and this other lady are hunting one of the maidens or the servants or whatever, and she's having arrows shot at her, and the two dogs, Ramsay's two dogs, are chasing her down. And they eventually run her down. Reek is also present, and really it's just to establish. So you gotta remember, this is the first time we're seeing Reek, right? This season. Okay, so basically we're catching up to see how far gone Theon is at this point, and you know, he bears witness to this horrific, incident where this girl, firstly she's shot with an arrow, but then like Ramsay commands the dogs to basically tear her apart. And we just see how, yes, Theon he sees what's going on and it's fucked up, and you can see it's kind of affecting him, but you also can still see that he's become more distant, and Ramsay has just taken and stripped him of all of his dignity and everything, and so he's like at his at a very low point right now. And that was my big takeaway, outside of the fact that noting that, oh man, those dogs, and not remembering that they were initially introduced in this particular scene, in this particular episode, and how they'll play later on. And just Ramsay's being a dick. He's enjoying this, and granted he's not torturing Theon in this particular scene, but he's still being an asshole to another innocent person, and it's fucked up.
He's definitely living up to that idea of the flayed man, because he likes to flay men. Bronn training Jaime. Let's get to that.
Before we get to that scene, I want to talk about the scene that precedes that, and that's the one with. And so Tyrion and Podrick and Jaime are sitting. Well, Podrick's not sitting; he's serving. But Tyrion and Jaime are sitting at a table, and Tyrion's toasting his brother's return, and he's like, "Come on, let's eat. I'm hungry. I'm starving. Why is no one eating?
That's right.
Sansa's not eating. You're not eating. You lost your hand. You didn't lose your stomach. So come on." He's trying to get his brother in a better mood, basically. And Jaime, he's still adjusting to the loss of his hand and the new prosthetic, and he's knocking his wine over. And Tyrion's just trying to cheer him up and make him feel better. And Jaime remarks, I can't fight anymore. I can't fight with my left hand, and even if I try, my instincts are off. And Tyrion's like, well, you just learn how to use your left hand. You just learn how to get better with it. You don't have your right hand, but you have your left. So just train and get good with it. And Jaime remarks that, who's going to train me? If men find, he said, men talk, especially in King's Landing, if anyone finds out that I need to be trained or I can't kill a pigeon, then, that's going to put people in danger. That's just as far as the Lannister name. I'm going to be a laughing stock. And so that's how we get to the scene you were talking about. Tyrion says, I know, I got you. I'll hook you up. So basically, Tyrion tasks Bronn with training Jaime. And because Tyrion knows that Bronn's trustworthy, he's not going to tell his business, and he'll get Jaime back up to speed. So that leads into the scene that you're talking about.
Yeah, and then we get what is going to be the beginning of a pretty good relationship that we're going to see between Jaime and Bronn, where he starts to train him. And so he's trying to train him how to learn his use his left hand, and there's a little bit of ribbing that Bronn has towards Jaime, and some comedic moments where they go to the secluded area that Bronn knows of because he's used that area for other devious things with some women he probably shouldn't be with.
Debauchery.
but yeah, I think because this is the first time we see Bronn and Jaime together, and they go on and do some missions. I
totally forget. They end up actually fighting side by side in battle and saving one another's lives, actually.
Yeah. They go on a lot of different missions. I think when they go to Dorne to get Marcella back.
That's right, because Bronn gets locked up. He's locked up with this sand snake.
Yeah, with the sand. Yeah. So they go on a lot of different missions together. So yeah, my biggest takeaway, outside of just everything we were seeing, but you kind of touched on the part with Tyrion, which is a pivotal scene. But just to see Bronn and Jaime, the beginnings of a pretty good friendship and a journey that they're going to start going on together. The big scene is with Bolton and Ramsay. And so when he's talking to Ramsay about Theon and needing to trade Theon for the land in the north, and he's saying, you basically you mutilated him, you did all these different things. I needed Theon to use him.
He was a bargaining chip.
It was a bargaining chip to Balon, because he was trying to get control. I forget the name of the land. It was something Molten. I can't remember.
Caitlin or something like that.
Yeah. And now he's done all this stuff, and because Ramsay was the acting lord of Dreadfort, and he said, Father gave him control. He was like, look, you made me acting Lord, I acted, so I made an executive decision or something, whether you liked it or not. But I like this scene because we see the relationship between Ramsay and his father, Roose Bolton, and the fact that he sees him as a bastard. And it almost goes to everything that we've been seeing when you see, like, it almost kind of reflects Theon and Balon.
I was just thinking it mirrors Theon's because
the wanting that acceptance and from his father.
Because Roose is upset that Ramsay did these things without conferring with him, without he didn't give him instructions to go do these things. Yeah. And it's kind of like what Theon did when he took Winterfell. He's trying to win the favor of his father. He wasn't told to do that. He was actually instructed to go do something else. But he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Bump that. If I go do this, then it'll impress my father. I'll get in his good graces, and I'll be considered an Ironborn again. Yeah. And ironically, or coincidentally, it mirrors Ramsay's situation where he's a Snow as well. So he's a bastard as well. And he wants to be known as a Bolton instead of a Snow. So he's feeling the same thing. Like, okay, well, if I do this will impress my father, and he'll give me his name. And then I'll be, respected, and I'll be legit. But that's not how, that's not what Roose wanted. Roose is, and ultimately Roose is never going to consider him that. But at this point, Ramsay doesn't know that. But it's funny, like we have two characters, and they're in the same scene. I mean, Rika's right there, and Ramsay is in a similar situation. So yeah, and I don't know that I noticed that or even thought about that. First go around.
And because I always knew that Ramsay was a character that wanted that acceptance from his father. But watching it now, even just saying it while I was saying it just now, it made me think. I was like, oh yeah, that does mirror Theon and his relationship and the same kind of journey that he was going through with taking over Winterfell. But the second half of that scene is when he shows how he has broken Theon down into becoming Reek, and the information that he gives about Rickon and Bran.
Yeah.
So he basically has Theon shave him, and he's showing his father, like, look, this is the control I have over Reek. And
I can put a razor blade. I can put a straight razor in his hand, and he will not.
And he won't do anything to me. And by the way, let me fill you in on some information that you may not know about that could be useful to you. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, he tells him about. He asks him these questions to let Roose know, like, look. The Stark boys are still alive. So you thinking that you have Winterfell is like, no. All that stuff that everybody is fighting for and trying to like get Sansa to try to get in to take control over the North, Bran and Rickon are still alive and they're the rightful heirs. So if you don't get them, then all this shit is for nothing. And I don't know, I just like how all that stuff played out, because it's that back and forth between that father-son relationship and Ramsay trying to prove to his father like what he's capable of doing, and that he's able to kind of be looked at in a different light in the eyes of his father.
Yeah.
What I got, Joffrey. Oh yeah, this is the scene before the wedding. So I forget where they're at, but this is Joffrey. He gets a present from Tyrion, the book.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot going on in this scene, because from the last video, from the last episode, Cersei knows about Shae. And the first thing I noticed about this scene is she whispers over to Tywin, and is like, look, the dark-haired girl over there, it's like, that's the whore that's, you know, been around. And he's like, look, have her come see me before the wedding. And that, I thought that was a pivotal line of dialogue, especially going into the wedding reception. We'll talk about some other stuff with Shae. And also when Tyrion gives Joffrey, I think, that book that kind of explains like some of the history of past kings.
Yeah.
And Tywin gives him one of the swords, the Valyrian steel sword, which is a sword that can basically cut through anything. And so he takes the sword.
That's a dick move, man.
And the thing that it plays. Joffrey plays it very sincerely when Tyrion gives him.
I totally forgot he was gonna do that shit. I was like,
me too.
Okay, maybe he.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe on his wedding day he's gonna be a nice dude.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like he's gonna like just, all right, it's my wedding day. Let me be nice. This is family. I can be cordial. I can be an adult. No,
you can't.
No. So this motherfucker takes the goddamn Valyrian steel sword and basically chops up the book that Tyrion just gave to him as a gift. Yeah, it did kind of look funny. But I don't know, man. Like, that scene, there was a lot going on, and I feel so fucking. I feel bad for Tyrion. That's just how I feel. Yeah. I do. I mean, we'll get to all the other shit that's going on in this episode, but I fucking feel bad for Tyrion. And this is just only the beginning of it, with this scene in this episode. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was fucked up. Tyrion. Then we get to Tyrion and Shae.
So this is your prototypical.
Yeah.
I gotta say the meanest shit. Even though I love it, I gotta say the meanest shit to push you away.
Which we've seen a lot in films and TV shows before. Because I titled this Tyrion and Shae. Tyrion has to make the hard decision, and he does. And I think Shae knows that. She has to know that with everything leading up to it. The conversation with Varys.
You know what I noted in this scene? It starts out. Tyrion's in. So after this pre-wedding ceremony, when Joffrey is a dick to the book and chops the book up, Tyrion is in his chambers. He's looking out the window. He's pissed off. Mm-hmm. And Shae comes in and she's flirting with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Babe, we can't do this no more."
Yeah.
And she was like, "What are you talking about? Look, you got to go. I gotta uphold my vows. I can't hurt Sansa. She's been through enough." Shae says, "What are you talking about?" She doesn't even want you. You don't even want her. Which goes to my point in the last video that Shay knows that Tyrion doesn't like her and that Sansa doesn't like him, that there's nothing in between them. So why the fuck was she giving him shit the last episode?
Saying. I mean, with her character, the writing is inconsistent.
Come on, dog.
It's just way too inconsistent.
Like, you just throw that shit in my face in this episode. Like, word? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, like you say, it's the typical scene that we've seen in breakup scenes with relationships when he's trying to push her away for the right cause, but he has to do the meanest shit, say the meanest stuff, and you can see how it's tearing Tyrion apart. It hurts him to have to do this.
It does, and he plays it so well with his acting that you know he doesn't mean any of it because he's not looking. He can't even look her in the face when he's saying that shit, and it's hurting him for him to even utter those words. Like you can see it in his face. Like it's hurting for him to even say those words.
Yeah, and Bronn comes in to take her away because he has a ship ready to take her back to Pentos, where she's from, and she slaps Bronn. Bronn, well, he getting paid, so he could take a slap in the face. Fuck it, he'll be alright.
And I genuinely think Bronn also understands their plight, and he feels for her.
Yeah. I mean, he everybody. There's no good way that this was going to end for anybody in this situation. So she leaves, and I love the last shot when Tyrion is kind of like walking, and then he just slaps the thing, something on the dresser, and the way the camera is kind of like shaking to really kind of evoke his mood as well. Just a powerful scene and a really well acted scene by everybody involved. Melisandre, when she burns the men, and Selyse, which is Stannis' wife.
No, it's Stannis' wife's brother.
No, that's what I'm saying. But Selyse is there. Stannis' wife. They burn her brother, which he's one of the guys on the stake getting burned.
And she's with that shit too.
Yeah, man. I'm like, she's up there like all happy. And
it's that cult mentality or whatever. Yeah. She's brainwashed, or not. I can't even say brainwashed. She is so far deep into the religion of the Lord of the Light that she's like, all right, whatever.
She's like a mindless zealot.
Yeah.
It's just sad, man. It's extremely, extremely sad to see that. And I mean, you see him yelling. He's like, "Look, I'm your brother. It's like you got me on here." And she's just like, and when they burn them, they're like, "Look, did you see their souls? Like, their sins of the world have been burned away." And I guess we can get into the other scenes with them at when they're at the table.
Yeah.
And the stuff about her daughter. I mean, and just the way Selyse even talked. I can't remember his daughter's name. I want to say it was Shireen, maybe. I can't remember. But she's speaking so badly about their daughter, because of how deep she is into this religion. She says, well, and Stannis tries to defend his daughter, which makes it even more doubly painful when we ultimately see the choice that he's going to make in upcoming seasons. No spoilers here, but I'm just like, what the actual fuck, man? It's these people, this religion has...
Man, it's so blinded. It's so blinded in that way, man. It's horrible. Because when you got someone who genuinely believes in something and they're unshakable in their faith, that's the steepest uphill battle. And it's almost always the steepest uphill unwinnable battle.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you can't tell them anything differently. Because once they're in it and they see it and they believe it. I mean, that's the hardest thing to break is somebody believes. It's someone's belief.
Yeah, man.
What else do I have? Oh, Melisandre, Stannis' daughter. I can't remember her name.
Oh, so Melisandre goes to her chamber. Because the mom was like, maybe, because she wants to punish her. And Stannis is like, yo, you will not raise a hand. You not put your hand on my child. And then she goes, well, maybe Melisandre can talk to her. And then we have that scene.
Yeah, so this was interesting to see because, I mean, they talk a little bit about what happened in the previous scene with her burning her uncle, and she's like, look, I heard them yell, and she says, well, women yell when they give birth, and then afterwards, they have,
joy.
The best joys of their life. Yeah. So, and these men have gotten the best joy because their sins have been forgiven. it's just an interesting scene to see between the two of them. I don't know if we get much more interaction between Melisandre and Stannis' daughter.
I think we do before.
Before that
thing happens. I think there are some more conversations between the two, but knowing what's going to happen when she walks in that room. Again, like every scene with her now, like I just don't enjoy watching.
It's like just knowing how everything's going to turn out. Yeah. A couple more points before we get to the wedding, because the wedding we got to talk about because there's a lot of shit going on there, a lot. But before we get there, Bran, where they talk about warging for too long and him losing himself. Yeah. So you mentioned something, and this could be a theory for the final season, which I haven't really. I mean, I've heard the theories about the connection with the Night King and him possibly being the Night King, but I don't know. When you mentioned that and watching this scene, it made me think about it a little bit more, and it's kind of making me dread that.
That dialogue is not throwaway, just like how we're doing rewatches and things that were inconsequential to us the first time. They have significant meaning because of things that have happened. I'm telling you, man, that shit's gonna come back. What's homeboy named?
Jojen.
Jojen. So Jojen, when they wake Bran up, he's like, "Yo, you've been out for hours," and that scene starts with you're looking through the eyes of the dire wolf Summer, and he's hunting a deer, and he's feeding on the deer, and Bran is awakened out of the warg, and he's like, "What are you doing? You just woke me up. I was about to eat," and Jojen tells him like, "Yo, you were gone for hours, first of all. Secondly, it's dangerous to warg that long. Thirdly, your body doesn't get nourishment from the consumption of the direwolf's consumption of whatever it eats. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You yourself have to
have nourishment in your body. Yeah.
And him saying, you have to be careful because if you warg for too long, you won't come back. You'll forget who you are. You'll forget everything. Yeah. And I feel like my theory, I'm willing to put money on it, is that because and also this goes to things we'll see in later seasons, like with the Hodor episode and how Bran is able to not only warg into something that is outside, flying in the sky or in the woods, but warg through different points in time. Yeah. And there's an episode when we get to the tree and he meets those weird looking elf looking people that look like they have like tree branches for hair. That
the first men.
So there's a scene, if I remember correctly, where there's a flashback and they're telling him about the first White Walker or some shit like that, and they said that the first men, the tree people, they created it. They stabbed him.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So I remember that. Yeah.
I think Bran wargs into the body of that person that gets stabbed. He wargs into the body of that guy, right? And that guy gets turned into the White Walker, who eventually becomes the Night King. But because leading up until that point, Bran's been warging and he's staying longer and longer. And I feel like he's gonna do that and stay and get stuck in that body and forget who he is, forget, I'm Bran, I need to get back to my normal body. I'm a Stark, I have all this other shit I gotta do. He's gonna get stuck in that body and then live in that body as the Night King, and as time goes on, because that's so far in the past that as time catches up to the present, of course he's going to age and change and look different. Yeah. Because if you look at the Night King's outfit, like what he's wearing later on in the series, Bran has on that same shit. It's just black. Yeah, and then just the way his demeanor changes, I wonder if it changes after that episode, after that event that happens, and how. Well, I know a lot of that is probably due more so to him become the three-eyed Raven. That's an interesting theory, man, and that makes me sad. That makes me sad, but I want to see how this plays out because it's going to be interesting. Let's get to the wedding, the royal wedding, and I really want to get to the reception. I mean, the wedding was nice. It was a short scene. We see it. The big takeaway from that, because I'm watching Lady Olenna. I'm watching her a lot in the reception as well, and just how they cut away to her, like when they start clapping. I see her and she's not really clapping, but
I mean, we know ultimately, if you've watched the show and you're watching this, we know who's responsible for Joffrey's death. He died. Spoiler alert. This is that episode. Anyway, reception. Let's get to the reception. The reception starts off with Tyrion and Bronn asking him, "Did you send Shay away?"
Yeah.
And Bronn is saying, "Look, I made sure she was on the ship. She's gone. Believe me. Look." She's gone.
You got nothing to worry about.
All right, you ain't got nothing to worry about. And I'm interested to see what's going to end up happening because she's not gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened with that, and I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting scene coming off the scene between Tyrion and Shay, just talking to.
I feel like she's angry, so I'm gonna fuck your dad out of spite.
Okay.
You know, Tyrion, because you mentioned Tywin said, "Hey, have her sent to my chambers
right before the wedding." Yeah.
So I feel like when that happens, he basically confronts her and has her come clean or whatever, and or you know, seduces her or whatever, because he ends up sleeping with her, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I feel like she ends up doing that shit out of spite because of anger, you know, because of the anger from her previous encounter with Tyrion.
Yeah.
And shit just goes bad from there. But is it the reception or the pre-wedding party thing where Olenna comes and introduces herself to Sansa, or not introduces, but go greet Sansa and says, "I never got to give you my condolences for your brother." I mean, what, like, war is war, but what type of monster?
Oh no, that was here at the wedding reception.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can, because there's a whole bunch. We don't really necessarily go in order, but let's talk about that, Olenna. Because I picked up on that too. It's like, what kind of monster would kill somebody at a wedding? Yet she's doing that shit
right now. Yeah. So again, one of those lines that it means nothing to you your first watch. But after you watch the rest of the series, now hearing that again, it has so much more impact. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. So I thought that was really telling.
Yeah.
Another thing I took away was Illyria and Oberyn talking to Tywin and Cersei.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the deciphering of what they were saying,
talking in code and shit, but they knew what they were saying. They knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, and just talking about Dorne and you know, like, Oberyn is pissed about what happened to his sister, and you know, just throwing all these little things at Cersei and Tywin, and
that last little dart hurt the most when you know, Cersei's talking slick and being all smug and smiling, but then that last little dart that Oberyn threw at her, you know, because they were talking about the differences of people from different regions and customs and stuff like that, and Oberyn was talking about, in some customs, some places, some people think it's okay to slaughter women and children and shit like that, you know, but luckily I come from a place where, you know, our customs aren't like that, and luckily your daughter is your daughter is in Dorne, where we adhere to certain customs. Yeah. And Cersei gave him that look like, oh, you motherfucker. I know. You better not do shit to my daughter.
Yeah, man. So I like the way that scene played out. Then we have Sir Loras with Jaime. And when he
again, one of those conversations where one person starts out talking slick, and then at the end of that conversation and at the end of that scene, somebody retorts and shuts that shit down.
Yeah, and he's like, look, you're looking forward to your wedding, right? Well, check this out. Cersei's going to kill you in your sleep. If you put a baby in her, she's going to kill that baby before he breathes his first breath.
But you don't have to worry about that, because you're never going to marry her.
You're never going to marry her. So,
and then Iron Fist was like, yeah, neither are you, motherfucker, and walked off. And Jaime was stuck. Like, you motherfucker.
And let's get to Brienne, because there's a lot going on. There's a couple scenes with her when she goes up to Marjorie first to give her congratulations, and Joffrey is like, oh yeah, you're the one that killed Renly, and Marjorie's like, no, that's not true, and he's like, oh, that's a shame. But she's, you know, trying to be grateful and gracious, and Joffrey is being a dick as usual. But I like the fact that Brienne is still who she is, regardless if she's in a highborn area at a royal wedding.
Yeah.
She is a warrior. She doesn't consider herself a lady, but she's still respectful to Marjorie because of her love to Renly, or loyalty to Renly and love for Renly. So I don't know, that was just hard just to see how Joffrey just kind of dismissed her.
Yeah.
But then with Cersei, when Cersei comes up.
Yeah.
And thanks her for bringing her brother back to King's Landing.
Yeah.
But yet Cersei can never just thank somebody. It always has to go to a different place.
Well, it really went left when Brienne says, because Cersei's thanking Brienne for basically saving Jaime's life, and Brienne remarks, "Well, actually, he saved mine more than once."
Yeah.
And then Cersei goes, "Oh, really?"
I didn't hear that story.
Oh, really? Word?
Yeah, I didn't hear
I ain't hear that story.
Yeah.
And Jamie's across the way looking at me like,
what they talking about over there?
Oh shit! She looked mad. What they talking about? I thought that was pretty funny, but it's not funny in that it just causes Cersei to be cruel to Brienne.
Yeah.
And taunt her about her affection for Jaime, which I didn't remember that point being made when Cersei exclaims, "Oh, you love Jaime," and Brienne didn't answer her.
Yeah,
she didn't answer her verbally,
but she answered
it with her face.
Yeah, facial expression.
I didn't remember that. But with what they've gone through, and we talked about it before. That it's to be expected, because they've gone through a lot.
So much, yeah.
And I mean, life and death situations, and not only just going through life and death situations, but saving each other from those life and death situations on multiple occasions. And so, it's
going to create a bond.
It's going to create a bond, and again, it's just an interesting character arc for those particular characters based on the circumstances of their meeting and them coming together.
Absolutely. Let's get into Joffrey's death, but the lead up to Joffrey's death, everything with Tyrion.
Well, before we talk about the characters, I think we have to remark on how that scene was shot and edited. It almost like a very. I get De Palma, Hitchcock vibes from the setup, because it's really misleading in the way events are presented leading up to Joffrey's death. There is this really, really distasteful show that's put on.
Of the Five Kings.
The reenactment of the War of the Five Kings with little people. And, again, Tyrion, this episode is just not Tyrion's episode, man. He is just being put through the ringer, emotionally, being very disrespected in front of all the people, with Joffrey being a dick in regards to making Tyrion fill his wine glass and then dropping it on the ground, and having Tyrion have to pick it up,
making him want to kneel,
making him kneel and shit like that, and then having these other little people come out and basically they're being clowns, and Tyrion's sitting there, and it's also distasteful in regards to Sansa, because they're reenacting
Rob's death, and making fun of Rob's death, mocking his death, and Sansa's right there, and you're right, it's all in distaste, and Joffrey is loving it, eating it up, and. It's just in poor taste, and then we get to everything with Tyrion. When he pours the wine on his head, he makes him, tells him to kneel, throws the cup on the ground. He has to crawl under the table to get it. Sansa grabs the cup for him, which I thought was really a great and noble thing for her to do.
Because you always remark how respectful and how supportive Tyrion is to Sansa, and for her to be there for him in that moment was big. That was big.
So they bring the cake out, and he takes the Valyrian sword.
Don't drop that shit.
Don't drop that shit.
Brought the yellow cake out.
So He cuts it with the Valyrian sword, and doves, Jon Woo's doves fly out.
Some of them get cut in half.
Yeah, because that was an interesting thing when I first saw it, man. Because they showed an insert of the cake when it was cut, and I didn't see like any dove's heads.
You didn't see the motherfucking head just like
no, I didn't. But I thought, because I was like, wait a minute, when he got poisoned, was it the cake? Because that's why I mentioned was it the cake? Because that insert always stayed in my head from this episode, and I was like, wait a minute, because you don't usually put an insert in unless it's for a specific reason.
Yeah. No, it was just to show that him being an asshole cutting the cake with a fucking sword, and he just killed some fucking doves.
Yeah, but he is eating the cake, and he drinks some of the wine, and I think at that point the wine is poisoned, and he's drinking the wine.
Well, so the cool part about the rewatch is knowing what's going to happen, because initially when the show aired, I was talking to you off air saying I don't think that when this episode initially aired that at the very least I knew that Joffrey was going to die in this moment, so I wasn't looking for clues as who poisoned, who's pouring the wine, who's near his glass. I wasn't looking for that the first time, but on this rewatch, because we know we were both looking specifically for people in the background.
In the background where they like passed through or something like that, or where he put his cup down. Yeah. And we saw when they cut away. It was closest to Olenna, but we saw like either the maidens or somebody was refilling everyone's cup.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody was working with Olenna, but because when he was eating the cake, he was distracted. So I'm thinking somebody may have just poured something into his cup when he wasn't looking. Yeah. And and then he takes a sip after Marjorie's feeding him the cake, and he starts to drink the wine, and then he starts to choke on it, and Tyrion is like, are you okay? What's happening? And he just he passes out. And Cersei comes over there. Jaime runs over there. Cersei pushed Jaime away, like, get off him. Yeah. she's there for her son. And I don't know, it made me go back to that scene with where she was talking about Joffrey as a child. So I don't know, I kind of empathize for her as a mother, but ultimately I was glad Joffrey got killed. But yeah, I just thought it was great scene the way it played out, especially then once it turns to Tyrion picking up the glass, and Joffrey is raising
the smoking gun.
Yeah, Joffrey raises his hand towards Tyrion, and Cersei automatically she's going to blame Tyrion.
Even if Joffrey hadn't pointed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, just knowing she's been present for several interactions that went south between Tyrion and Joffrey.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because of Tyrion's choice of words and his decisions to handle certain situations in the presence of Cersei, it just lent precedence to the fact that he would have motive to do that.
To do that. And they've been building up to that for quite a while between Tyrion and Joffrey. Even in this particular, in this episode, or in this at the reception, with everything that was going on between them, and the humiliation that Joffrey was subjecting them to. Absolutely. And then one last thing, you see Sir Dantis, the guy that gave Sansa his necklace, he came up to her and was like, look, if you want to go, we need to go now. And because I think Sir Dantis is working with Baelish to get Sansa out of there, but Sir Dantis is going to be used and going to ultimately lose his life because he's going to be framed, and I think that's going to be coming up in the next couple of episodes. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that wedding reception. And again, we talk about Alex Graves as a director and the way he's able to handle character and handle these really big scenes that deal with so many different characters interacting with each other. And I think the end of this episode really shows his direction in directing the episode like this. Yeah. So yeah, that is episode 2, The Lion and the Rose.
We got that sorry motherfucker out of there.
Out of here, man. So the next motherfucker bastard, which can't wait to see get out of here, is Ramsay. Got a while.
He's got some more asshole shit to do.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it will be glorious when it happens.
God damn, that episode is so good. Battle of the Bastards. I haven't seen that one since it initially aired. Woo.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, The Lion and the Rose. Joffrey's gone, and we're on to the next one, like Jay-Z said. So, yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Remember to rate, like, subscribe, and share. And go ahead and check out our other dorks, at Mouth Dork, at WB Dash, at Sidewalk Siren. Check out the podcast at ItModcast. That's it for us. I am the Turtle Dork. This is the Disco Dork. And with that, we are out.